اوكي، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. وبعد، يسرنا أن نلتقيكم في الويبينار الثالث من سلسلة دعم الكلية. المقدم اليوم الدكتور محمد القريني عبد الرحمن العلي، وحيتكلم إن شاء الله عن تعزيز مشاركة الطلاب في بيئة التعلم الإلكتروني. تفضل دكتور محمد.
شكرا بروفيسور طارق. بسم الله نبدأ. As Professor Tariq mentioned, today's talk is about enhancing student engagement. Before I look at the student engagement, I just want to step back and then we look at why it is important to consider the engagement at this point. The development of e-learning and adaptation of e-learning has been steadily increasing over the last decade. And however, it has been accelerated because of the current situation and pandemic. There's so many benefits for e-learning, from saving time and money and providing consistent and scalable sort of approach for learning. However, there's a issue with e-learning is that the student engagement is tend to be lower. This is kind of one of the issues of e-learning. Although it has so many benefits to kind of learners, it comes with this issue. Students tend to kind of not fully engage with the material or underestimate the time it takes to complete the task, and this of course lead to a lower performance and lower retention rate, as we tend to lose a student if they think that they won't be able to catch at a later date. It is quite important to recognize this as e-learning is here to stay. I mean, although it's been kind of widely adopted because of the current situation, but it is going to be here to stay for the future. And I think the sooner institution recognizes that there is an issue and try to kind of move forward and enhance the student engagement, I think that's will be better from the student experience and the learning process. And hence our topic today is about enhancing the student experience and looking at engagement and evaluate kind of the engagement itself, looking at the factors that affect engagement and so on. Under kind of the normal classroom, I think engagement can be easily quantified by kind of understanding the student and check their attendance and class participation. However, with online, it's becoming kind of an issue, and it's more difficult to gauge engagement in a meaningful way. All right. So just for an overview, I will be looking at the factors that affect engagement of student, and I will be looking at also at the approaches for e-learning and how we can provide you with some tips regarding designing and kind of an engaging e-learning process. These tips are more or less coming from my experience and from the work I'm doing here at the University of Portsmouth. Also, one of the things that to enhance the kind of engagement is by creating an interactive sort of content, kind of which enables a student to engage better with the material you are trying to deliver to them. And it's most importantly kind of to monitor the engagement and have some sort of intervention measures to deal with the kind of lack of engagement. Otherwise, the process itself might not function in a proper way, right? I'm not sure if you all can see my screen. Right. Before kind of looking at the factors that affect the student engagement, let's look at engagement and what's kind of the components that affect the engagement itself. So if we look at engagement, and if we can portray that by kind of like a pyramid or triangle, we find that the student, the self-motivation of the student themselves, and of course in the e-learning environment dictate how the student kind of engage with the process itself. If the students are motivated, are completed kind of the work on good time and engage with the kind of the material, that will provide the foundation for a good engagement for the student themselves. However, this will be hindered by their ability to access the material in good time, whether they have a technical issue or access issue, and so on. Engagement can be enhanced, of course, by the interaction with the lecturer themselves. If the material provided is engaging and the lecturer provide the right feedback to kind of the e-learner in good time, the engagement itself will be enhanced. Also, students tend to learn from their peers and their class colleagues. If there's an interaction, of course, there's better opportunity for students to learn. And also, students always compare themselves with their peers and to see where they are at that point, where they're making progress or not, or there's an issue that they need to deal with. The last piece of this jigsaw is kind of the institution themselves, and whether the institution is kind of providing enough support for students to deal with kind of technical issues related to the learning management system and so on. And there is a link between all of these elements, and they affect the student engagement. For example, if the lecturers are providing a platform for student interaction, student engagement tend to be better. And that, of course, will depend whether the students are engaged with these kind of group activities or platforms provided by the lecturer themselves. And the institution, of course, they need to be able to kind of deal with student issues, technical issues, and provide the right platform, and also have the institutions have in place kind of quality assurance processes to ensure a kind of a good learning experience is provided to the student. Also, an institution need to be able to kind of enable the interaction to happen between the lecturer and student by providing lecturers with the right training to handle kind of any e-learning platforms. If we look at the factors in more details, we know that student engagement affected by a few things, by the student themselves and whether they're disciplined and motivated. And there's a few kind of issues that kind of affect the student engagement. From the student point of view, could be a technical issue. They don't have access to the right material on time. They don't have access to kind of internet. They have not they don't have the right devices, and so on. Issues could be the student themselves underestimate the task, and they do not manage their time correctly. With the kind of the classroom delivery, the student, they know where it need to go at every time, every day, what time their lectures, and so on. With e-learning, it's totally different. I mean, even if the material is provided on a daily basis, they still have the freedom to access them at different time. And if they don't manage the time correctly and underestimate the task and leave things to kind of a later date or time, they will be just playing up a catching up game, and they will basically affect their engagement, overall engagement. Of course, whether the students are motivated themselves, and whether they know what is they need to do kind of to complete the tasks they have. Also, if in institutions they don't monitor things, student, they feel that they're not accountable. There's nothing for them to kind of, or they feel there's nobody kind of watching them, and they kind of tend to relax a little bit. From the lecturer point of view, the way the approach we take kind of to deliver the material could affect the student engagement. Also, the kind of the material themselves, if it is not personalized in the sense the students are different, they're learning at a different rate, and if we provide in the material kind of not in the right kind of base, students tend to disengage from the material and the learning itself. The quality of the course and or the content and how interactive the material is, or engaging the material is. Lecturers themselves might not have accepting kind of the e-learning kind of the way forward, and they're hesitant in applying or kind of adopting e-learning strategies. Kind of faculty members or lecturers might not have the right IT skills to deal with the learning management system, and probably some might estimate the effort it needs to kind of deliver an engaging material. From the learning institution or the universities, institution might not have quality assurance processes or mechanism in place to deal with kind of or to evaluate the experience and put measures to improve the kind of the experience itself. The university might not be ready kind of to have the right infrastructure and the right support for staff and students to deal with the implementation of these systems. They might not have the right capabilities to support both the staff and the student, and hence it will affect the student learning itself. If a student is stuck in not knowing how to access certain material, that will affect their engagement over the long run. And infrastructure, of course, and also the security of kind of the privacy of the information themselves. If we are providing kind of like interactive environment, but all students are able to see kind of what other people are doing, sometimes students, they feel that the information are not secure, and their hard work is basically exposed to everybody else, and they tend to disengage from these interactive activities. And the last kind of part about the student interaction, if we don't have enough interaction between a student, and if a student feel isolated, they tend to kind of disengage from the whole processes. And of course, students learn from their peer. And if we don't provide the right interaction, they tend to kind of disengage. Once they disengage, then it's quite difficult for them to go back into kind of the material and understand what they need to do, and they end up basically failing and leaving the course or exiting the course. So there's most of these kind of probably this probably you'll find other kind of factors that affect student kind of engagement, and this will depend on the kind of the local uh, situation and kind of the social network of the student, and also depend on uh, what is adopted in different parts of the world. However, some of these kind of factors is out of our control as educators, and it depend on institution, and it depend on the student ability to access information. But I'll be concentrating on the factors that we can influence and that will be able to change, such as providing some monitoring and kind of measures to deal with disengagement. Also, we can look at the e-learning approach, what e-learning approach we adopt. Uh, Also be looking at how we can enhance quality of the course content, basically by providing an engaging content, interactive content. Also, I'll be looking at providing measures to enable student interaction. Of course, there would be other things if you are dealing with engaging, kind of trying to kind of design engaging content. Of course, you want to be delivering the information in such a way that a student will be able to manage the information and be able to understand the task they need to complete. Right. If we are looking at the delivery approach itself, engineering, if I'm talking about engineering courses are practical in nature, and therefore most institutions developed or adopted a blended learning approach where we have an online element that is supported with kind of a face-to-face element or face-to-face activity for labs and practical work and tutorial and so on. The issue with the blended of approach, it assumes that a student will watch or complete the e-learning element before kind of joining the face-to-face activity, which is not always the case. Um, what I have experienced during the last year, I find that students, they come to the face-to-face element hoping that they will learn the content during that kind of session, which the session meant to be for them, kind of this tutorial for them to practice and consolidate what they have learned or practice what they have learned. Most of the time they will come and they try to learn the new material, and you'll be surprised with the level of questions you'll be asked. Basic knowledge question student will tend to ask you, and of course you need to be patient and be able to kind of understand where they're coming from. If we're looking at the e-learning element, the e-learning element can be delivered either in form of structure-led learning, where the instructor providing the material and has a control on what deliver at what time, and kind of the learner looking at the material in a timely fashion, and there will be some interaction between the lecturer or the instructor and and kind of the learner. And this sort of delivery is suitable for undergrad student. If you're looking at the other type of e-learning approach or method, that's what we call self-based e-learning, where the instructor just provide the information. There's less interaction between kind of the lecturer and kind of the student. The student, they have the freedom to complete the task when they want and at what time and what base they want. And therefore, this approach is more or less suitable to kind of mature student or postgraduate student. If we are looking at our average undergraduate student, instructor need to have kind of high level of involvement with the student themselves, and they need to provide kind of structure-led e-learning kind of approach, where they provide a student with not only with the material in timely fashion, but also provide the information in kind of uh, uh, segmented way, where the information is divided into manageable amount for a student to learn for the specific week or a specific time during the course. And also the instructor will be providing different activities for the student and interaction kind of opportunities for the course student to interact and so on. If we're looking at instructor-led e-learning, the material themselves can be either delivered in kind of a time base, what we call synchronous kind of a time event. However, the kind of the drawback of this sort of time event synchronous delivery, a student might not have access to internet at the specific time. And if we are looking at kind of countries where they have issue with the power or internet, that sort of delivery might not be suitable. The other type of kind of delivery where that time independent, what we call asynchronous, where the material are pre-recorded and delivered to kind of the student themselves. And this gives a student opportunity to look at the material at different time. And this is basically the approach of the self-based learning, where the kind of the student, they have the material and they can learn when they have access to the kind of the material, or when they have access to the internet and so on. So the approach need to be adopted basically will be a combination of a structure-led and also a self-based kind of delivery by looking at the asynchronous material. I think that's the approach which is adopted, and I think most of you kind of are adopting or looking to adopt. It's not only providing the material for a student to look at it at their own time, but also ensure that the student will have the opportunity to look at it. If you provide synchronous kind of delivery, of course, that will save you the time it takes to record the material, and also you'll be able to deal with the student query on the spot. However, the drawback, not all the student will be able to kind of learn in that fashion, or might not have access to the material itself in the first place. So the difficulty with kind of asynchronous sort of delivery, because you put the material, you have to pre-record the material, ensure the material is correct, ensure that the recording is done to a high standard, and then dealing with the student query afterwards. That will put a kind of instructor under immense pressure and kind of time to deal with the recording itself, and they need to find the right time to be able to record the material and deal with student queries. I mean, from my own experiences, it was quite hard basically to find the right time. You have to wait until kids went to bed or sleep, and hoping none of them will wake up or have a nightmare. Also hoping the neighbor's dog will not start barking in the middle of the night after seeing a cat and or seeing a fox. Here in the UK, we have foxes, urban foxes roam the street and garden during the night. So you're hoping the dogs will not see anything or not hear anything. And it is quite challenging, basically, for in the kind of the instructors themselves to be able to kind of complete the report, kind of the recording of time and deal with the student queries, and also provide the face-to-face element for the practical and other activities that the student will need. So if we're looking at undergraduate student, I think the best approach to have the instructor-led learning with asynchronous material. However, the kind of institution need to recognize the time input or the kind of the pressure instructor are put under to complete this sort of delivery. Right. If we are looking at the quality of the e-learning itself, the quality can be enhanced from at the course level or the institution level. If we're looking at the institution level, there's different things institution can do to kind of to enhance the quality and ensure that the experience students receive are consistent, are adequate for them to learn the material and excel in kind of the subject they're studying. So institutions need to provide quality assurance processes, not only just to kind of evaluate or analyze the experience, also to provide measures to improve the experience itself. Also, institutions need to be providing the right support for the learners. The student, they will come with all sort of issues. They're accessing the material through different means. They will, of course, they will have technical issues where they their kind of device might not be compatible with kind of the system they're trying to kind of use. And therefore a technical support need to be in place to enable a student basically to resolve problems. If these problems are not resolved, a student tend to kind of leave the material for the following week and the following week, and by default they will disengage from the whole teaching process. So it's quite important support is available for a student to help them with technical issues. Here in the UK, university went a step further by providing the means to access these kind of learning management system, and provide them with kind of devices that compatible for them to learn, but not kind of is going to be the case everywhere. However, a support will be kind of required to enable kind of the learner to access the material in a kind of a timely fashion and be able to know exactly what they need to do to access the material. Also, the support needed for the staff themselves. I mean, not all the staff, they have the ability to handle these different systems, and even the recording, knowing kind of the software to use, and to be able to provide an interactive sort of experience. They need to know some of the technologies, and not all staff are having the know-how, and therefore there's a kind of staff need to be supported in the technical way as well, similar to the student, to kind of make it easier, or providing sort of templates and so on to the staff themselves. And I think the last part is about the student themselves, and if they're ready for the e-learning process, not only from the the infrastructure point of view, but also from ensuring support is available, and that the experience students are getting is consistent, and that student will find what they need easily and be able to excel in whatever course they're doing. If we're looking at the quality point, it has the ways to enhance the quality from the course point of view. The content themselves to attract the student and make them engage with the kind of the content themselves. The learning has to be centered around the student and providing providing the material in kind of like engaging material that all the student will be able to relate to and be able to kind of follow in a timely fashion. Also, the material need to be provided to the student in a kind of segmented sort of way, where the information is delivered to them in a weekly or kind of a daily, or rather than just put the material at once and expect the student to be able to look at it. By doing that, you basically restrain the student and affect their engagement. The best way is try to feed them kind of the information gradually, and what we call in the kind of in segmented way, and the student will learn in a kind of in a better way, and they know exactly what tasks they need to do every week, and how long it takes to complete the task itself. Also, adopting a sort of a template that will make life easier. Here at the University of Portsmouth, we adopt kind of like a weekly template where students are provided with the information in a weekly fashion, and you will have like the weekly lecture, the recording for the week, and students are clear about how long it takes to kind of go through the material, and also provide them with kind of like group activities or any sort of activity to kind of to enhance engagement, and provide them with kind of extra information, basically to enable them to explore the subject in a deeper way. The experience provided to the student not only need to be consistent for kind of at the unit or a module level, but also across the different modules the student they learn. Students, they find it quite difficult basically to follow different things, and by providing the same sort of template to the student across the different subjects student that study, will make it easy for the student, and they know exactly what they need to do every week. Of course, you need to look at personalize the content itself. A student, they learn at a different base, and you need to make sure that every student will be able to handle the information delivered for the week, and be able to kind of know exactly what they need to complete the task. And of course, you need to monitor them as you provide the information to make sure that they know what they need to do, and they're completing the task they're doing. If we're looking at these in kind of in more details, if we're looking at the kind of how we create engaging content that the student will be able to relate and engage with, there's few tips that I'm kind of currently adopting, and probably based on your experience, you might have come across others, or be able to kind of add to this list. I mean, this is not a kind of a complete list, but this is what I'm currently following. First of all, we need to set a clear kind of learning objectives. So students, they need to know what they're heading towards and how to achieve that, and what is the kind of they need to do kind of to complete these tasks, and what they will be completing. So setting a clear learning objectives for the student will make life easier for them. Also, the learning itself need to follow a certain timetable, so you don't have a kind of a timetable as per se, but you will have a schedule that student they need to kind of follow, or the content you develop, you go put to the student. They need student they know at which week you'll be giving them what information, what subject will be, or the topic will be, and they need to know where they're heading, what is they're doing to complete the course. Sometime at the beginning you provide information, the theory, and then later during the course you provide in the application. Sometimes the student they don't see the link, and when you provide them with the theory, they think, what is the point, why we are doing this? They need to know where they're heading, and if you provide them with a schedule of what to follow, they tend to kind of know exactly where they're heading, and they tend to engage with the material itself. Also, when you are providing this schedule, you need to make sure that you consider the base of the student. The student, they learn at different pace. I mean, some of them they pick things quicker, other they take time to pick things, and you need to cater for all of these in your schedule and order when you're putting the information. Of course, you need to be consistent. If you're using a template, and of course that template need to be across the different modules, you need to follow the template yourself kind of from week to week. If you provide in the lectures and then kind of the interactive material, the lecture itself, the format you deliver the lecture in a student tend to disengage if this material is delivered in a different fashion or a different ways. Of course, you need to kind of make sure that not distract them, provide the material in a timely fashion, of course, to consider the base they're studying, to study the material. Of course, you need to make the kind of the material interactive. Student tend to kind of their kind of attention span is not long, and sometimes you need to stimulate their kind of curiosity a little bit and provide them with some interactivity within the content, so they can click on or follow, and that will give them kind of incentive to go kind of dig deeper and know a little bit more about the subject, or motivate them. I will be touching this a little bit later in a different slide. Also, when you're recording the material, you need to keep the material as short as possible. I know it's quite difficult. I mean, I find it quite hard sometimes to kind of provide the material kind of in very short videos, or one video per slide. I kind of attend, if I have a 2-hour lecture, I just provide a 2-hour material, and hoping that the students are uh, kind of high education, they're in high education, they know exactly what they need to do. They can always stop or pause the video and restart it. But I find it actually, after talking to students, I mean, I spoke kind of to so many students and kind of asked them about their lack of engagement. And the common things coming along was is the kind of the length of the recording itself. They find the minute they see a 2-hour recording, that put them off straight away, and therefore having a shorter recording, student will have uh, kind of be able to look at the recording themselves and follow what the different recording If they have to stop for one reason or another, they know exactly they have completed one one of the recording, one of the videos, and they continue with the other videos as they go along the week, or they go along the different material they have to do for the week. I think it mainly down to the attention span of the student, and normally during face-to-face activities or classroom activities, if you don't have if you speak for more than 20 minutes, students tend to disengage. You need to keep it as short as possible, and then provide different element for them to interact and speak and practice and so on. And here I think the same. So the videos need to be as short as possible, and also between the videos should they be like the question and examples or quizzes or any other activities that the student that we need to do. Also, you need to make it interesting, and bring the student to the material itself by creating some visual interest. Is student by seeing a video or a media recording, they will tend to learn in a better way, and the information will stick in their head, and they will realize what is the point of doing this particular subject. Uh, Student they learn, they get interested if your board presentation is interactive. There's colors, there's consistent in a way is being delivered. So visual interest can basically attract the student to the material itself. And when we provide in the material to the student, you need to make sure that these material are relevant, of course, to the real world. And that's what gives a student incentive to learn about the material. Actually, I noticed this. I had the lecture about the topic was knowing the type of flow in open channel in rivers and canals, what we call uniform and non-uniform flow. The subject itself was quite dry. However, I looked at providing a video just to entice them to see what is the point from doing this. And I found a interesting video on YouTube about the failure of a culvert due heavy flow, and that designers having considered a certain element of the flow type. And that's actually created some interest, and that lecture in particular, the engagement level was a lot higher compared to other lectures, and that gave me the idea I need to provide these real world scenarios and visual sort of media to draw the student in to the material being delivered at the time. Also, you need to provide some opportunities for a student to explore the topic deeper, and thus give create some interest, and in particular engage a student. They want to know a little bit more, and give them the opportunity basically to learn by providing question to practice on, for example, or further reading, understanding the real world scenarios. Right. If we're looking at how to create an interactive content, I think it's run out of time, but I will go quickly through some of these. If we're looking at creating interactive content, I mentioned earlier about quizzes, and if you have creating quizzes within the lecture itself, that will give a student opportunity to click on the question themselves and answer, and see what is the correct answer, and get some feedback, instant feedback. That will kind of create some interactivity within the material, and students improve their engagement with the subject itself. So these quizzes, you need to be careful when you're putting these quizzes. If you put them within the recording itself, uh, you will alienate some of the student basically from following the material. I mean, the weaker student, if they can't answer the question, they can't move forward. And that will create a little bit of unease, and student tend to disengage. So you need to leave it kind of outside the lecture itself. I mean, although some people will feel it is uh, more appropriate kind of to put it within the lecture recording, so student they can move to the following slide before answering some quizzes. But I found it actually, from my experience, it is better to have the quizzes outside the material or the lectures for the week. Uh, Also can make use of these branches scenario where you can provide additional information if student click on certain things. So in particular, engage a student or those they don't understand the information fully, you need to provide some link or some sort of additional information they can access by clicking a link, for example, or create some sort of branching within the content for the week. That will kind of improve their engagement with the material itself. Also, you need to create the opportunity for a student to interact with each other. As I said earlier, students learn a lot better from their peer compared to kind of learning from the lecture itself. And this can be provided, you can provide a forum for them to kind of discuss different aspects of the topic. And sometimes that will save kind of time for you as well. I mean, if a student, a particular student have a difficulty with one part or have a specific question, if they post the question in the forum, other student, they have ability to answer the question. Also, you want to monitor what they're doing and what they're answering. Of course, you want to make sure that they're doing the correct things. That will save you the time. I mean, sometimes students, they send these queries or send you the email in the middle of the night or during the weekend. You won't be able to respond to them. However, if there's another student studying at the same time and got an answer, of course, they'll be able to respond at the same kind of within this short span of time. And students tend to learn a lot better by with this sort of interaction. Also, you need to kind of create some group kind of activities or group work. I know it is quite difficult if this element is not assessed. Students, they don't want to hear about things if it's not assessed. And if you put it just kind of for formative feedback, kind of like a task for formative feedback, is, I mean, a few students tend to engage with that, and of course that will help them, but it might not help the majority of the student. So when you're trying to create some sort of group work, I think you need to think about putting some sort of credit or part of the assessment or a kind of a fraction of assessment to be related to that task. And the group can be self-select, so you can create this within Moodle or another platform for students to interact with the material. It's quite important that we monitor the engagement of the student throughout the course, and put some measures kind of to deal with the kind of engagement issues. Um, if you're looking at the kind of the platform, we use the kind of the learning management system or Moodle. There's opportunity to look at student engagement at kind of a different level, different weeks. In Moodles, you can get the stat dashboard, or kind of if you look at the setting with the Moodle, you'll be able to get the stat for the course, and that give you idea about student kind of engagement with the material, the percentage of them and which material they're engaged with, and give you kind of a breakdown of the kind of for the different activities. Also, you can interact, there's different report with the Moodle that you'll be able to look at, give you kind of the individual kind of performance compared to kind of overall class performance or engagement and so on. Also, you could look at putting a kind of a dashboard within your Moodle site, and that will give you kind of an instant sort of kind of engagement level when you put in the material, how fast the student they're looking at the material, and when they're looking at the material, how many of them looking at the material at the current time, and so on. So you'll have opportunity to know what is happening with your module or subject. Also, you can look at the way they complete these mini quizzes if you have one, and how quick they complete the quizzes and how long they take them to complete these quizzes. Of course, how fast they're accessing the information and when they're accessing and for how long they're accessing the information. All these information are quite valuable and give you idea about how engaged the students are. However, it can be um, kind of useless if you don't use it for kind of to intervene where there is a problem. When you kind of see a disengagement issue, you need to remind the student about it. And within these learning management form, it is quite easy to kind of know kind of which student who's not engaging, and then you'll be able to select them and send them kind of like a message telling them, yes, you have noticed there's an issue with their engagement, and that they need to engage with the content, otherwise they will fail that particular kind of module. Of course, not all they will react to your message. You need to kind of provide some sort of harsher warning later on, and that might lead to kind of exclusion from the course and so on. It is quite easy kind of to integrate sort of the data. If you look at a Moodle, so you can look at the participant and select the student, whether they're not kind of engaged or not looked at the material for the last week, or how many weeks they haven't looked at the material. And then you just send an email. The email will be sent, although you write just one email, but that email will be distributed individually to kind of the different students who are not engaged at that particular time. And that will create some interest. Basically, students, they feel that nobody's watching them. But if you remind them, yes, we can see the information, we can see that they're not engaging, and that's what we are going to do if they don't engage. By default, they will come back to the kind of the education process. Um, I know it is difficult for the student when to engage with the material if there's nobody watching over them. I mean, when they're at school, their parent will make sure that they're doing things, but at university or higher education, nobody's doing that. And so it's not our job, but we need to make sure that they're engaged with the material we're delivering at the time. And we need to make sure that they're engaged and they'll be able to kind of handle different information, and of course they will be able to succeed. Right, just to summarize, sorry I'm a little bit over the time. To summarize, student engagement is quite important under the e-learning environment, and it's affected by so many factors. Some of them related to the student themselves, others related to the organization and the way we deliver the course, and so on. To enhance the engagement, we need to ensure the quality of our learning, and the learning is consistent, and that university and the course level, they have a mechanism to enhance the learning process. You need to kind of create an engaging and interactive content to entice the student and make sure that they will kind of interact or engage with the material you are delivering. And you need to build some intervention measures to deal with the disengaged student or low engagement levels. That's all I wanted to cover for today, and please ask if you have any question. Sorry, I've just exceeded the allowed time.
Well, thank you, Dr. Muhammad, for a very informative presentation. We learned a lot, of course, for our colleagues and the people who are attending and the audience. Now it's time, please, time for questions. Please go ahead and ask questions. You can, I think for sure, you can just pick the mic and talk, or you can also just write your in the chat window. Please write your question, and then I'm going to share them with Dr. Muhammad. Thank you.
Well, may I please?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Very interesting presentation and really very useful. I have a question, Purani, about the Philip classrooms. I mean, when you give students a small piece of the lecture to prepare and teach other students, my experience with this in the face-to-face is really very useful, very successful in engaging with students. Do you have any experience in e-learning? Do you have any advice, please?
I think I haven't used it. I mean, mainly kind of when you're teaching undergraduate student, if you give them a material to go and kind of read or understand or go through beforehand, they tend to kind of not to do that, and they end up basically delivering all the information. I mean, having said that, I mean, I have a modules kind of postgraduate module. Information students are quite keen. I mean, we have what we call a kind of integrated postgraduate undergrad course, and students on that course are high achievers. That sort of delivery is more suited to the kind of high level student, mature student, highly engaged. So they tend to kind of engage with the material in any way you provide it, and they tend to kind of follow what you kind of give them and ask them to do in a weekly base. With kind of the subject I'm doing, it's an undergraduate student, of course. It's quite difficult for them to provide them with information that they can explore before the kind of the weekly session or the face-to-face session.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Dr. Muhammad. I have two questions. First from Professor Muntasir. Prof, you want to go ahead and ask your question, or shall I just go ahead and read it, if you don't mind?
Sure, I can ask. First of all, thank you very much. This is really enjoyable and thoughtful, and I was writing a lot of notes myself. You're giving me a lot of ideas. My question is about striking the balance when you monitor students and see how they are engaging or how they are doing the work that they are supposed to do. And responding back to them. How do you strike the balance between being advising them toward a certain goal versus forcing them toward doing the activities that they must do and risk maybe not offending them, but disengaging them even further if they think like they are intimidated, for example?
I think it's kind of I normally kind of don't kind of contact them straight away. I wait kind of for a few weeks to see how kind of they're settling in and looking at the information. And after a few weeks, and if you see a pattern emerging, of course, this pattern you'll see it across the different modules. And if you notice that, then the first email or the first kind of intervention would be just highlighting the fact that yes, we can see what you are doing or what you are not doing, and we have a support in place to kind of help you kind of interact. I mean, in the university we have if a student have issue with the math, we have opportunity to kind of refer them to kind of a support, a math support tutor, or they have issue with kind of accessing the material. You can refer them to the right department in the university. But the most important things to get the first dialogue kind of start. I mean, you kind of tell them, yes, we know what's happening, and get them basically to respond to you kind of thing if they have an issue or they're just lazy. Of course, if they're lazy, they will come with any kind of lame excuse. And then if they repeat the same thing kind of when you kind of monitor the engagement in 2 or 3 weeks time, of course, at that point, you need to be a little bit forward and be kind of harsh in the way you kind of deal with the situation. Of course, if they come back to you, they have an issue, a genuine things. That's what we want. I mean, to see what prevented them from engaging with the material and try to help them. And if we can't help them ourselves, we can forward them to the right department or right people so they can seek help. So the problem could be outside our control, could be just related to the system, related to the accessing the information, have financial difficulties. They might have something which is affecting them, but unless they talk to us in the first place, it's difficult to know what is going on.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Muhammad. We have a question here. I'm going to be reading from the chat. The experience can be isolating for students, and some may need more support than others. How do you cater for their different needs, either as a lecturer or from university perspective, or university as a whole? Thank you.
I think the most important things, I mean, the students are learning in a different way. And some of the students, of course, are quite demanding compared to others. By providing the information in a kind of segmented way, you'll enable them all to kind of to have the time to go through the material. And of course, by providing all these kind of platforms kind of for students to interact with each other, they will get help from their colleagues if they don't want to ask the question directly to the lecturer. Although I'm flexible kind of with the kind of the student emailing me and asking specific questions, of course we cannot go and through the material with them kind of on one-to-one basis, but we have a kind of be a kind of by providing the mechanism kind of for them to interact and also to ask question individually to the lecturer, that will give them for them to learn and know exactly what they need to do. From the university or the higher institution, of course, at the institution level, they need to provide the support kind of to the student, the technical support on how to do things, Also, I'm not sure what the kind of different institutions around the world are doing, but here at Portsmouth we have different kind of academic tutors. Basically, their job is to kind of deal with the student query and provide them with a kind of support level, technical support in the subject they're doing. I mean, the support would be kind of like related, say, the maths. If they're engineering student, of course, they need to know the maths, need to handle the maths, so there'll be support tutors to do that. If they're kind of doing some sort of programming or computer-related things, there'll be kind of support kind of in that aspect. And of course, there'll be kind of support related to physics and I mean, all engineers depend on dynamics and physics and so on. So there'll be kind of a support related to that. So from institution level of kind of they need to provide this sort of support in addition to the technical support in dealing with the student technical issues related to accessing the material, kind of the system, the device they're using, whether it's compatible or not, and how to kind of deal with these sort of issues. I hope I answered the questions.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Actually, I'll just go back. I forgot to mention that question was from Dr. Wigdan. To me, I think you answered the question. If Dr. Wigdan, she want more clarification, please go ahead.
Shukran, Muhammad. Yeah.
Thank you. Sure.
Shukran.
Thank you. So the next question is from Dr. Rehab, which is she's saying, thanks, Dr. Orani, for your nice presentation. As teaching online take more time than the face-to-face, does the institute decrease the teaching load for lecturers to enable them to manage their time?
I think this year, because of everything being done in a rush kind of thing, and there's here in the UK, but in particular, we went on lockdown, and then we went back to some face-to-face activities, and the kind of the guidance are changing, so it was difficult to plan ahead. From in our school, I think the time is spent in the kind of dealing with the kind of delivering the material and dealing with the kind of student queries and providing the face-to-face kind of material. Sorry, the face-to-face session. And if, of course, these face-to-face session need to be divided. So if you have a class of 150 students, you won't be able to provide a session for all of them. So you need to kind of divide that session, divide the cohort in 5 or 6 sessions. So you end up basically repeating a lot of kind of the information, different time, different cohort. And of course, that's quite time consuming, and find the time to record and deal with kind of a student query. From my own experience, I think I haven't had a weekend for the last 6 or 7 months since started this academic year. And that probably tell you the amount of work needed to be done. Hopefully, the effort being put this year, of course, this depends on how this pandemic kind of the situation evolve. But if it continues, at least we have the material, the recorded material for next year, and then there's less kind of work you need to be doing from kind of for the e-learning process itself. Is just dealing with student query and covering these kind of face-to-face activities. And I think for next year's, we're trying to get the support from kind of like different postgraduate student to be able to handle some of these activities, which is it's time consuming. So if you have to have like 7 or 8 classes, you need to go around and deliver the same material. It is quite time consuming. and it meant to be kind of for student to practice, but the student, they use the session to learn about the information rather than practice.
Well, thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Actually, I have a question, follow-up question on this question from Dr. Ihab. Actually, personally, I tell my students here that this learning environment, it's just it wasn't our decision. We just found ourselves in this situation. Because some they think that they tell you, normally they complain to me, we are very stressed. And however, the university now is offering some consultation, but you need to, I mean, the line is really long. So many people need some consultation because of this specific environment, but they don't understand this same pressure applies on faculty, I mean the instructor. So they some of them that, I mean, and I like your interactive, very interactive, my teaching too. The interactive environment that we try to take from the face-to-face and get it to in the e-learning environment is reflecting on us. I tell my student, when we started last year, I did not have glasses. I didn't. And then now I need to consult with doctors. They tell you why you don't have exams. They think all things are the exams. So my question actually is from the engagement is very affected by the whole pandemic and the aftermath of, I mean, of the decision, or the sudden decision that we need to move quickly to the e-learning environment. I don't know what from engagement perspective. I don't know in the UK. The system is a little different than the American system that we adopt here. That especially when it comes to the peer the peer learning environment. I don't know how that is being affected. And now in the face-to-face, I pick on the student. I know, I mean, now I know this student has been disengaged. I would go to them. I try to engage them back. The problem now, you see not the faces. Most of the times you see the list of your student there. You keep pushing them by name. Okay, Ahmad, what do you think about this? And you try to involve them in your class while you go. But what you miss is basically other than the forum and discussion, that peer learning. I don't know how you maintain that in the UK environment.
I think it's quite difficult, kind of, because we have these face-to-face activities and opportunities for group kind of work to be conducted on campus. A student, they have the opportunity basically to kind of learn from each other and meet each other and compare themselves to the learning of others. Of course, they want to feel where they fit within the class. I mean, are they knowing exactly what's going on, or they don't have a clue? It is missing, and that high level of interaction is missing, even within kind of like a class. Sometimes when you have the normal classroom delivery, student, they will be sitting kind of next to each other. They will be discussing things and learning from each other. This, with the online, of course, this is missing. To extend when you come to kind of these face-to-face activities, because we spaced the student out 1 meter apart, so the student, they don't have that interaction. But student, they find different ways to kind of interact, as long as you create kind of the very step. I mean, if you get the student kind of like very serious student, they don't know anybody else in the course. Probably it's quite difficult for them to interact. But if you create kind of like these sort of forum or these kind of like discussion or group activities, the minute they know somebody in the class, they kind of get into their create kind of like a WhatsApp group or creating sort of a group in social media, and that basically do the job for you kind of thing by kind of interact with each other and getting information from each other and so on. But I think the difficult part is getting them to talk to each other. That's the most important things. For kind of like final year student, because they were here when we were delivering kind of on campus, so they're fine because they have their circle of friends and people they know in the course, so they don't have an issue, and they have already they're talking to each other in different platforms. But I think we found it is quite a big issue for a kind of first year student who just joined us last September. It's quite difficult for them to interact unless you create something for them to initiate that kind of interaction.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. I think Hisham is raising his hand. Please, Hisham, go ahead, please. Assalamu alaikum, Hisham. Can you hear us?
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. مساء الخير.
مساء النور. كيف حالك؟
أنا I just came to this lecture and just I want to say to people I am here. Just I interfere in this lecture.
منور.
So, يا أخي
الله يديك العافية.
يعني still we are in Sudan and you actually know the situation here. The whole day we are running, so just I want to show that I am here and I really very glad and very interesting for this webinars you do, and we hope that we can attend more webinars and make good subscription and give good ideas.
الله يديك العافية يا هشام. والله يعني نحن سعيدين سمعنا صوتك و thank you for the support. definitely يعني وجودكم معنا يعني نحن زي ما قالوا من غيركم ما بنسوي أي حاجة يعني، ونحن أصلا كلنا أخوان وزملاء وأصحاب. الله يديم إن شاء الله المودة. وفي النهاية دارين كليتنا طبعا يعني نقدم the best يعني. الله يديك العافية يا هشام. ألف شكر.
يا أخي والله ما قصرتوا، يعني رفعتوا راسنا، ويعني إن شاء الله ربنا يديكم الصحة والعافية كده، ونتعاون جميعا كده لرفعة هذا البلد، يعني المغلوب على أمره وما في حد يعني قلبه عليه يا أخي للأسف الشديد يعني. بس الله يعيننا ويعينكم بس. الحمد لله.
شكرا لك.
آمين. الله يديك العافية إن شاء
الله يكرمك يا أخي.
في I know نحن we're running out of time، بس في very nice question from Dr. Wigdan. I'll be reading if you don't mind, Dr. Muhammad. As a faculty support team from 87, I think this is a general question to everyone in the batch. As a faculty support team from 87 batch, and in general, the whole batch, what support or help can we provide to the faculty of engineering students during this pandemic? Perhaps it's good to hear from Ghurani and others in the academic field or in the faculty of engineering. I think Dr. Ghurani, you can go ahead if you'd like to يعني address it, but I think it from the question, if I'm reading correct, it's basically it's basically, I think, general. Thank you.
I think probably for everybody else to kind of see what they can contribute to this series of seminars, and probably the next series will be some technical and branching out to kind of the different members. So it might not be all relevant, it might not be all related to kind of e-learning and the university, the faculty support in particular.
I see, thank you, Dr. Muhammad. I see Biko.
Yes.
كيف حالك بقى؟ إن شاء الله طيب.
Yes. I would like to take the opportunity to thank Dr. Gulani. Really, all of you are bright for our batch, this 87 batch. We are very happy that worldwide, all over the world, we have very significant and outstanding people who have outstanding achievement. I would like to thank Dr. Gulani. I have a small question, Dr. Gulani. They are telling that in this teaching, student learning, that is the e-learning, they are warning the instructor or the teacher not to go to this activity-based teaching track. The lecturer has to focus on the standards and the objective rather much than it is easy to fall in the activity-based teaching trap. Correct me if I am wrong.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question fully, but I think in my hearing, as I'm getting older, my hearing is being affected. But I think that the main things is kind of like the processes we need to put in place to deal with, to ensure kind of the quality of the work itself and ensure that students are engaging. I mean, this generation are different from our generation. We were kind of, we were engaged, and I think we had the motivation to kind of study and kind of move on with our studies. This generation has so many kind of distraction, and it's quite difficult for them to engage with material unless we provide them with the right environment, and we need to have processes in place to make sure that we deal with all these kind of non-engagement issues. I mean, for example, we are competing with the like of social media, with the like of gadgets and mobile phone, and student time is limited. And if we are competing with all these interesting things, and I think for us, and it's quite crucial that we provide kind of these engaging sort of material so that the student can engage with it. So I know it is a difficult one, and we still need to make sure that we address the engineering knowledge for the student. However, these need to come under the umbrella of the material, need to be engaging material, just to kind of make sure that students are engaged with it, and they'll be able to kind of understand what's going on, and then be able to kind of perform better in our modules or subjects and graduate as competent engineers. So that's our aim, but it's hard in this current climate, and of course with the distraction we have at the moment, is our job is even made harder.
Well, thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Biko, Biko, the microphone with you.
Yes. You said I was here for providing us this lecture. And I feel proud that I am part of this batch 87.
Well, thank you, Babakir. Of course, this batch, we're no different than anyone of this batch. Everybody is excelling in their whatever they do. As they say in Arabic, everyone is عالم في راسي داره. I'm very sure and well achieving their goals, and we are very proud, of course, of each and every one of you. And we are very happy to be part of this batch, very unique batch. This will take me back to, if you don't mind, to that question. I think that question is very good question. I don't know. It's in the chat to everyone. Window, if anyone would like to shed light on it, especially Dr. Jamal and Dr. Tahani, because it is in the context of the Faculty of Engineering there, and how as a batch you can provide the students through the pandemic. I mean, how we can help them. Honestly, it's a very tough question for me. I don't know. So I think if Dr. Tahani or Dr. Jamal can shed some light or give us some tips on this, or so that probably we can would be able to answer. I will leave it for my colleagues.
As kind of, I think, is to support the student themselves. I think that there was one initiative mentoring the student and provide them. I know it's quite a big kind of topic, and it is not going to be easy for us to support from a distance. But I think the only thing probably we'll be able to provide these students with is kind of like mentoring to kind of help them to kind of understand how to kind of go about their studies in this particular time. I know it's quite a difficult time. Provide them with ideas of how to approach the learning itself, how to deal with kind of issues or managing their time kind of correctly to be able to handle the e-learning process. But however, this is, I think, beyond everyone capabilities. There's other things that might need to be looked at. I mean, supporting them in a different way rather than just mentoring them, supporting them technically, supporting them financially to acquire the devices or have the technology to access the material in the first place.
Well, thank you, Dr. Muhammad. I don't know if
السلام عليكم.
or Dr. Tahani. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Tahani.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. نشكر دكتور غرني، شكر جزيل يعني على المحاضرة القيمة. وطبعا يعني الجائحة اللي هي كانت سبب رئيسي في إنه ننتقل بشكل كبير للتدريس عبر الإي-ليرنينج يعني. رغم الصعوبات المعلومة لدى الجميع، الآن في مشكلة في لاكو في الإلكتريسيتي، بتقطع 10 ساعات الكهرباء في اليوم. وفي تجربتي الشخصية أنا بشتغل مع 5 ومع 3. عدد الطلاب في التخصص في 5 هم 8 طلاب. ما في مشكلة، ما في يعني مشاكل في الكونكتيفيتي في كده، بننسق الجدول وسهل جدا لأنه الباتش صغيرة والعدد بسيط، وهم يعني خلاص كبروا شوية ناس 5. أما مثلا في التجربة بتاعت الثالثة طلاب 120، وصعب جدا تعمل كنترول على فصل كبير قدر ده. ومشاكل طبعا هم بنشتغل اونلاين، في ناس بيكون معظمهم يعني في البيوت، في مجموعة في الداخلية بيجوا في الكلية بيكون عندهم مشكلة بتاعت accessibility، في ناس ما عندهم أصلا تلفونات، يعني المشاكل مختلفة حتى في الوصول للمحاضرة ذات نفسها. لكن برغم من كده الناس يعني بتجتهد في إنه بعد ما تخلص المحاضرة بندخل على المنصة بنرفع الاكتيفيتيز الريسورسز بتاعتنا، وإذا في أي اكتيفيتيز بنديها لهم. في تيست في كويز كلها بتتعمل. طبعا ما اخذنا تيست مثلا امبارح كان في القاعه، ما في طريقه تعمله اونلاين للاختلافات اللي ذكرتها دي. فنحن مع بعض وفي التيم الجروب بتاع دعم الكليه ممكن الناس تتناقش تشوف كيف ممكن تقدم السبورت ده اذا كان للطلاب. وطبعا اصلا في نقاش عن السبورت اللي حيقدم للجامعه وللكليه في اطار الاي-ليرنينج وكده. الموضوع طويل عشان ما اخذ الزمن، لكن ان شاء الله الناس تتناقش في المجموعات وتصل برضو يعني امثل طريقه لمساعدتهم كده ان شاء الله.
أنا ممكن أضيف حاجتين تقريبا. الكلام اللي اتقال I agree with it 100%. I think we have يعني a very good group and very good interaction going on to help. البوينت الأولى I think to get things going on the ground, I will highlight one thing that Qurani said, the quality assurance. If we have somebody back there in the College of Engineering whose sole job is the quality assurance and help for the e-learning initiative, a staff member, and by staff I don't mean faculty member, staff member, so it's not a professor. We have things like that in other universities outside, like we have centers, big centers, that's their job. In University of Khartoum could be a one person or more. That person would be proficient in dealing with Moodle and attend all these webinars and make sure that all of these quality assurance guidelines are implemented in other courses. So their job would be to help the faculty members to do this. And then we can be the support group that if this person needs any help in any issue or anything, then we can be interacting with that person. Because otherwise it would be, if we want to interact with every faculty, for example, that will be very time consuming and infeasible. So that's one thing, one suggestion. The other thing is related to the webinar series itself. So that next time, inshallah, we're going to have the panel webinar where we're going to have all of us in this group, plus inviting some of the students to come in. The way I think we could go about it is that we can divide the discussion into what are the requirements, what are the needs, what are the desirable things that we want to go to, and what are the challenges. And especially from the student side, I mean, we can be, as faculty members, we can stipulate what those challenges are, but it will be good to hear from students themselves. And then we can come up with a plan and with a direction forward to see how we can help the college.
Yeah, that's definitely very good point. And I think as we agreed, I mean, Qurani said it, and then now also Dr. Tahani and Muntasir said it. It's basically it's a big subject, honestly. I mean, it is really it needs involvement of everyone, and I think that will definitely put us in a good place, so that our next webinar is going to be like a panel, and then we get some students and we hear from them. But I have a question for Tahani. Is basically, I remember when we were 10 years ago, when we were student at في الجامعة هناك ما كان في السيستم بتاع الستودنت evaluation of instruction, because I think it's a very missing piece. لأنه it will help in improving the the learning environment and things like that. I don't know. أنا صراحة I don't know whether now it is part of the assessment process or not. I mean, assessment of instruction. لأنه I think that will help.
في طبعا يا طارق في إدارة عملت اللي هي إدارة تأكيد الجودة أو ضبط الجودة اللي هي الكواليتي أشورنس ديبارتمنت، تابع للجامعة كلها، وكانوا بيقدموا استمارات على أساس إنه في آخر محاضرة الأستاذ بيقدمها للطلاب، وطلاب بيدوا الفيدباك وكده. لكن صراحة أنا عملتها كم مرة وفي الأناليسيس بتاعها ما قاعد أحس إنها هي صادقة، يعني في شوية كده برضو من عدم المصداقية ممكن نقول. فهسه أيضا ما شايفة طبعا، هسه يا دوب أنا دي أول سنة دراسية هسه أرجع فيها. ما شايفة يعني ما متأكدة إنه الأساتذة هسه بيستخدموا نفس الاستمارة بيتعاملوا كيف مع الفيدباك بتاع الطلاب. لكن عموما هي موجودة، والإدارة يعني بتجتهد في إنها هي تقيم بعض الأساتذة. وافتكر يعني الطلاب هسه في الوقت الراهن ما مساكين زينا زمان. يعني الآن إذا عندهم أي رأي في أي أستاذ بيجوا بيقدموا شكوى عديل، بيقدموا شكوى. ممكن يعني بالذات إذا كان أستاذ متعاون أو متعاقد يعني ما فول تايم وكده، يعني بقد عندهم الأساليب اللي إنه يعني بيدافعوا بها عن حقوقهم وكده، وعندهم حرية أكتر يعني من زمان. فنحن زمان بنخاف نمشي حتى جنب مكاتب الأساتذة يعني. لكن الآن الطلاب عندهم يعني مش الجمعية، لكن حتى على مستوى كل دفعة وكده في ناطق باسمهم، وفي حاجة اسمها الكوردينيتور ده الأمين الأكاديمي للدفعة، وبيجيب رأي الدفعة في أي حاجة، وبيقدموا إمضاءات وتوقيعات وكده يعني. ففي حرية أكتر هسه من زمان يعني. وافتكر دي غير اللي هو الفيدباك اللي بيجي بالاستمارة. يعني الاستمارات دي بتتعمل وأي حاجة، لكن زي ما قلت لكم يعني التقييم بتاعها دائما ما يعني ما بيكون مرضي، لأنه يعني الكلام ذاته مرات ما بيكون كلام حلو يعني، وممكن ما يكون هو فيدباك حقيقي، يعني ما تقييم حقيقي للأستاذ، يعني ما حاجة راشدة يعني الناس ممكن تبني عليها وكده. لكن ممكن في الفصول الكبيرة يعني ناس رابعة وخامسة وكده الناس خلاص بيقوا ماتيور انف، وممكن يعني يدوا فيدباك حقيقي، وممكن ناس تعتمد يعني الاستمارات بتاعتهم فيه، لكن الميثودولوجي ذاتها موجودة يعني.
اوكي
شكرا.
ممكن أعلق لو سمحتوا لي؟ يعني الموضوع بتاع التقييم ده موضوع خطير جدا وسلاح ذو حدين، وإذا ما اتعمل صح هو في الغالب ما قاعد يتعمل صح في أي حتة بتاع تقييم الأستاذ من الطلبة. يعني أنا عندي زملاء أساتذة ممتازين جدا، لكن الطلبة لأنه زعلوا منه في حاجة فبيقوموا في الفيسبوك جروب بتاعهم بيتفقوا إنه لا تسكيل هيم and they kill him. اوكي، فبيبقى له الهدف منه شنو؟ ده حاجه مهمه، وكيف تصميم الاسئله نفسها مساله مهمه جدا. برضه لو سمحت لي برضه سريع جدا اعلق بس على الاقتراح بتاع منتصر انه يكون في كواليتي ديبارتمنت، وبروفيسور تهاني اكدت وجود الكلام ده. بس تو شير اكسبيرينس، احنا عندنا حاجه اسمها نوليدج سنتر او كي سنتر بتاع ناس فيري يعني فيري سمارت young guys and شغلهم to bring ideas or tools to use in teaching and assessment. يعني مثلا بروفيسور تهاني ذكرت انه الامتحان لازم يكون في الكلاس روم، يعني هم جابوا لنا تول ممكن نستخدمها ويكون فيها بروكتر وفيها اوكي، وما يقدر يفتح اي حاجه في اللابتوب بتاعه ويعمل امتحان بس. فالنوع ده من التولز هم اللي بيوفروا لنا وبيقترحوا علينا حاجات، ونحن بنختار نستخدمه شنو وما نستخدمه شنو. فده برضه مقترح يعني، لكن برضه محتاج ريسورسز. وحتى عندهم بعض الطلبه معينين، بعض الطلبه حسن للهايبريد كلاس رومز. انا في الكلاس روم بيجيني طالب خاش يقول لي محتاج مساعده تتوصل مع التيمز ولا كده، بيخدموني كثير. just ideas, some throwing ideas.
Well, thank you, Adil. Yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes the student evaluation of instruction can be subjective. Yeah, but المشكلة إنه يعني it's one of the methods that one type of feedback that you can get from the students. I think I don't know. We're running. I think we're behind in time, but let me just say that thank you again. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad, for a very informative, definitely a nice presentation and the discussion from all my colleagues here. Definitely, wallah, I feel very proud, as Biko said, to be part of this very unique صراحة batch. Discussion was really nice. I hope, with this we will. I'm going to with this I'm going to take the mic back to Muntasir.
Thank you very much, Professor Tariq. Just want to echo your words. Thank you, Qurani, for the very nice presentation. And thank you all for attending. And we're going to have a break for Ramadan, inshallah. And then we're going to come back with the panel, inshallah, after that. So thank you very much and see you next time.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Thank you all.
Thank you.